I have an interesting question for you. So in the last podcast, you mentioned that at one point in your life you were religious. So what made you make that switch in your head from like going from religion? Because I think you said you were on like a one of those trips. I'm sorry, I forget what they're called.
You're good.
What made you switch that in your head to go from, you know, this very, very spiritual belief to like almost the complete opposite of like life is life, we die, you know, fact is fact, nihilism is a whole. What made that switch in your head, or was it like a long process?
I mean, it was a very long process. It was 5 years. And it was very, very hard for me. And I think I will say this, the amount of messages I got from people who are Christian and Muslim and other, faiths thinking that I attacked them on the last podcast. Like, I don't know how I can make
you got messages?
Yeah. I mean,
we
just
didn't
DMs.
get, comments,
just like,
but yeah.
And I will say this again. Yeah. My statements are not an attack on your religion. They are simply an expression of what conclusions I have come to. And I'll say it right now. I'm wrong. You're right. Everyone listening to what you believe, you're right. That being said, for me, I was even going to, at the time, a Christian therapist, because I was like, I wanted somebody who understood therapy, but also like understood, Christianity, so they could kind of like work with me on these things. And after like a handful of sessions, she just looked at me and she was like, Alex, I think you just need to make a decision. She's like, you've gathered all the data, you've gone to the courses, you did a college course on the formation of the canon, which is like how the Bible was actually put together, why things were put in, why things were not put in. You know, like you've investigated all this stuff, and I was obsessing about it because I think for me, until I understood like why I was here, like nothing else mattered to me. So it's like, and some people, they can just like walk through life without really thinking about it. And in some ways I'm jealous, that they can just do that. I couldn't. Like, I was like, why am I working? Why do I care about money? What's the point of all this? Like, that was always my first and most important thought, is like, once we answer that box, then everything else kind of falls underneath of it. And so, I think it's safe to say that there are very exceptional people who can make arguments on both sides in terms of like, there's nothing, it doesn't matter. And then there's really amazing apologists like Ravi Zacharias, who's an amazing apologist, who's a Christian. There's just a ton of guys, right? And they're brilliant people, and you can listen to both sides of the arguments. But I think what ends up happening is that on some level you have a belief, and I'll rename that as an assumption, because all beliefs are assumptions, but everyone has these assumptions. And at some point you just have to say like, okay, there's stuff on both sides. The jury has to pass a verdict, right? And to say that like we have cracked it, or like Alex has cracked it, or like to try, like the deeper you go in these arguments, the more there are just other arguments that just continue to get pulled. And that's why I just fell into this rabbit hole where I was like, I need to start becoming a productive member of society, because like this is just going on forever. And that's when she was just like, I think you just need to decide. And for me, the thing that felt more true to what I actually believed was that I didn't think any of it was real. And I think it was because that initially saddened me, and I didn't want that to be. That's why I spent so much time trying to like logic my way in to believing, because I do think it's a better life perspective to believe that there's capital M meaning, that there's somebody behind the scenes who's directing our lives so we can accomplish some greater goal, right, beyond ourselves. I just don't believe that. I wish I did. I spent 5 years trying to. I just don't believe it. And for everybody who messaged me and said, I really just need to talk to you for 5 minutes, please don't. I'm good. I'm very content with my belief. And so for me now, I had to learn how to live with that belief, and then kind of go from there, which is like, I don't believe that anything happens after we die. And my evidence for that is that I have been dead, because I have not been alive. And I know what it was like before I was alive, which was there was nothing. And I think that that's exactly what it'll be when I am not alive again. So to me, I'm okay with it. And that's fine. I just keep taking breaths. But that's like, and I know I'm not right. You know what I mean? It doesn't, like, that's just my 2 cents, Alex's 2 cents on the world. And I think that people just need to figure out a belief. Like, whenever someone states a belief and they're like, well, I don't think that. I'm like, cool, like, awesome. As long as like your beliefs serve you, great.